I hear you love Salesforce, for example.
I love Salesforce.
So like taking, taking Salesforce data.
Please tell me that you guys use Salesforce. Please tell me.
Some of our businesses use Salesforce.
Yes. Those are the best ones, I bet.
Month end, right? We want some insights from what's in Salesforce, and we want to translate it into commission data and revenue data. And
good luck with that. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, where AI takes the floor. Lee and Rich on the mic.
Welcome to the AI Guys podcast, where we make artificial intelligence easy to understand for everyone. I'm your host, Lee Dixon, and as always, I'm joined by the Prince of Pivot Tables, Rich Swire. How you doing, bud?
Wow, pivot tables. I like that one.
Yeah, I figure kind of lean into a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today with our guest. So our guest today is the CFO at Carina Software, which covers the energy, resources, and engineering portfolio at Constellation Software. In her spare time, she volunteers on boards in the education space, as well as the shelter space, and spends as much time with her favorite person, her dog Bosch, who's also the star of her finance team's music video. Shika Gandhi, welcome to the pod.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we don't usually get celebrities with celebrity dogs on with us, so this is really unique for us.
Yeah, they usually say no right away.
Yeah. We've been pulling in anyone we can that has famous dogs, and they shut us down every time. I appreciate you slumming it.
Yeah, my goal is to retire off of his Instagram income, so we'll see.
That's smart.
Yeah, we'll ask production to put all of his
Amazing.
What is his Instagram?
At Notorious B.I.G., the Frenchie.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was wondering why I couldn't get that one. So now I know.
Now you know.
Now I know where it went.
Already taken. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Obviously, for those that follow the YouTube page, we had some kind of unique postings over the last month where different music videos came in. And our parent company here at Rhea, Constellation Software, has a variety of portfolios. We won't get into all of that boring stuff for those that don't know what Constellation Software is, but absolutely something to check out. But what's great about it is that the Carina team and Shika's team specifically made a music video that won an entire kind of Constellation-wide contest. So I wanted to talk a little bit today, obviously, about the experience of doing something like that, because coming from the finance side probably was not something where everyone was jumping out of their chair to be creative. But also, with the experience that your team might have already had with AI or being exposed to it, how you went from, all right, well, let's just do this music video and see what happens with it, to what else can we really be using AI to do that isn't just for fun?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Constellation proposed this competition at the busiest time for finance. So it was January.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, January of this year. And so my team saw the email and they just hit delete. they deleted it. I think it was the third reminder that I finally clued in, and I was like, oh man, I guess we have to submit something. Like, I don't want to be that one CFO that doesn't have a submission because my team keeps deleting the emails. Yeah. So I had to volunteer my team. Like they were not happy to take time out of their day job to do this AI project. I mean, they use ChatGPT to help organize their life, like plan a vacation, and then Copilot to help write emails. Like that was sort of the way that we use AI on a day-to-day basis in our finance life. And so a music video felt really daunting. Like, where do you even start? So
yeah. Well, at least you have a dog that is going to be a great cover photo for it. That's
So that was the inspiration, because they're like, well, we might as well make this fun. My dog Bosch is our team mascot. He comes to the office with me a couple times a week. He's got a bed and a bowl, and the 100 or so people in the office will come by to see him, and no one knows who I am. So it's good for me too. It maintains my anonymity. Yeah. But
you're just the handler at that point.
I'm just the handler.
That's great.
I'm Bosch's mom, is what they say. They're like, oh, you must be Bosch's mom. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have a name. Yeah. And so it was easy, like from the sense of finding a theme. So Bosch was sort of the central character, and then his Instagram handle is Notorious B.I.G. So they thought, oh, let's do a rap video based on Biggie's Juicy. So that's sort of that was a prompt that we fed into ChatGPT. So we basically said, create us lyrics for a song that features a girl and her dog and nine team members in finance at Constellation, and make it sound like Juicy by Biggie Smalls. That was it. And it took like 3 minutes, and ChatGPT came out with all these lyrics.
Unreal.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And then we used neural frames for the music. Mm-hmm. And then we used a storyboarding app. I think it was called LTX Studio for the actual storyboard. And they just kind of took about 3 hours over the course of 2 weeks. Cause we only did it when we did it, like when we were doing a coffee break or lunch or whatever. And,
right.
And suddenly there was this music video with my Frenchie as the lead artist.
Love it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, cool.
We should, I was thinking maybe we should like share a screen. We can maybe do like a walk us through maybe a little bit of it. What do you think?
Yeah. If you want to go to the page really quick.
I got it. Yeah, I'm here. I'm already here.
We'll have production just cut it. Yeah. Well, that's because it's your homepage. I know that. Like
I've got it.
I'm already here. Yeah, of course you are.
I've got it defaulted. Awesome. I've defaulted. All right. So walk us through what you're thinking here. Like what stage, set the stage here. Maybe give us like some director cut, like, highlights here.
I know who that is.
Yeah, so that's a girl and her dog walking down Bay Street was the prompt. Constellation software, and they name dropped. They name dropped Valeris and Harris, and they name dropped Mark Leonard. Like, it was wild how quickly it extracted all this Constellation data, especially because Constellation's a pretty private company, right? Like, we're public, publicly traded, but
decentralized for that anonymity anyways.
And so we just said, like, make it finance related. So the first cut was very mergers and acquisitions, M&A related, and we're like, no, we want it to be mergers. Like, I'm a CF, like I need debits and credits, and I need I want it to be finance. And so then rewrote it.
Let's get some GL accounts up in here.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
All right.
So now,
is this an accurate representation of your dog here? Like, does it have bling like that, or is that more of like is this the?
He does not wear bling like that. That was
creative.
Notorious, that was the Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Smalls influence wearing the bling.
All right, just making sure.
Yeah.
Although I do see a incoming Halloween.
Now, is this a normal scene 100%. That you would have like in a finance department at CSI? This kind of vibe.
The party in the office.
Yeah.
This is our
with balloons.
That's everyone dancing.
Yeah.
Is this where all the money's going to these?
You know it.
All right.
I love this because
he does attend all our socials. So
yeah.
It's
I love this because we've never put in our year of doing this this much video on the podcast.
I love it. No, this is people are getting behind the scenes. This is a life in the day.
With Bosch and his mom.
Bosch. But it's cool because it like did a really accurate representation of the Toronto skyline. Like, it's pretty. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Karina.
It's really cool that you guys, I mean, obviously from the music video contest, for those that are not inside of CSI, there's a lot of like Euro dance, like kind of techno type stuff. There was a couple of like, alt rock type approaches. Like I voted for this one, I'll let my vote be out there. I believe Rich did too, is the number one. And it was super creative. And I think what I loved when you were saying, like, we did this on coffee breaks and stuff, of course, for anyone that is deep in AI, from implementation or like they work in the space and listen to the pod, like, to them, it's just like, oh, I can't believe they didn't dive into this and like go so far down a rabbit hole. It's like, there are people that have other things to do, right? And like you said, it came at a time where your team was literally just like, should I just report this as phishing and stop getting it and just start doing the know before classes now that I messed up? Like, I don't want to do this. So when your team finally was like, all right, let's put the effort in, was it after that first little coffee break, or, someone saying, well, hey, I went and found this site and I experimented and it's kind of cool. Like, was it more of a snowball going down a hill, or was like the roof just blown off the first time you guys had one thing to show and everyone's like, oh man, and then everyone was all in? Like, did it take time to get the team excited for it?
It was a slow burn. I mean, there was a huge groan when I first said, okay, team, we gotta do this. And I'm, so there was a massive groan. And then after that, one person was like, let me just see how long it takes to get lyrics. So there were a couple iterations of lyrics. They refined the prompts, things like that, and got better lyrics. And then they said, oh, well, we've never really done images. Let's try what that looks like. So one person experimented with like a cover page and another person experimented with storyboards. And then I think they kind of grouped around one person's desk to put the storyboard into the music video so that they can do it sequentially and kind of pick what image goes where. And so it became something that everyone got excited about, but it started with that one person just saying, let me see how long it takes to come up with lyrics. And it was like 3 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. It's funny how, and this is kind of the, I guess this is kind of the brilliance of Scott, the person who kind of sponsored this, because, when we heard about it and kind of the extrapolation of what he wanted to do with it, we are like, oh yeah, that sounds like, fun. I mean, I'm like, I don't know what you ultimately get out of it necessarily, but I mean, it's definitely going to push people down, in a place where they're maybe not as comfortable and they're learning about AI, which is ultimately what you like, oh, this is actually going to open up a lot of people's minds, on the creative side, which is good, but also just understanding like that path that you just described is actually the path all of our customers go through. It's that same thing where it's like the promise of AI and what you can actually do with it does require that initial groan, as you mentioned, and then that kind of first 2 or 3 people to kind of like, all right, you know what? Let me spin something up. Let me see how hard it is. And they go, wow, that was actually a lot easier. And then they started seeing their creation come alive.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh man, this is awesome. And then of course you showcase it to other people and they're like, oh my God, I want to be part of this now. So I think that's kind of like, in a weird way, the curve that everybody kind of goes through of adoption of AI, because even if you were talking about something, less fun than doing like videos of dogs, but like if you're talking about just like automating anything in a business, it's like, oh, I gotta do the work. I gotta figure out, I gotta write down what my process is. I've got to curate all this documentation that I have to train this AI on. I got to write my prompts, my instructions. I got to, it's work that I was not planning on doing, but the pay dirt at the end of it is like, oh, wow, I'm going to get automation out of this. I can delegate my work to that. And then people get addicted to the idea of like, oh, let's see how far we can push it. So it's interesting to draw parallels, which is, I do think that was Scott's intent was, hey, listen, we may not necessarily get you, it would be a lot harder to get everybody to do, to build up an AI agent that does financial auditing, even though that's your specialty, because it's so far, it's like you haven't really stretched that part of your mind yet on how to even do that. But like the creative side of building this video, now you're open and willing to go, wow, I'm sure there's ways of doing this. We just have to iteratively prompt it and build tools to do it.
Well, I think that's one thing too, Rich, and Sheik, I'd love for you to jump in there too. But like, that's probably the biggest problem within tech, right? Is that, oh, here's another thing I need you guys to do. And it's, or another piece of software I want you to get acclimated with. And everyone that's where the groan, it's a muscle memory of just like, God, not another thing.
More work. Yeah,
exactly. That we're just going to turn back to doing on spreadsheets anyways. Like stop buying stuff we don't need.
That's exactly,
so they probably heard that and thinking like, not just, God, this is terrible timing. And this is another piece of software, but they're just like, are we really going to waste our time on something that 2 weeks from now, we're not even going to think about again?
Right.
So the fact that it made an impact, I think is, again, hopefully Scott's listening, but a testament to his evil genius in a way.
Yeah. And I think the other maybe scary part about all this is they've never, other than ChatGPT, they'd never used any of these tools before. Right. And so how do you're doing this creative thing, and accountants by nature aren't creative. So I know, shocking.
Really? Is that really?
The creative with the books.
That's about it. Scott, I didn't say it.
I did. I did, Scott.
I didn't say it. So there was like a little bit of hesitation on, not only are you asking us to do this thing that we're uncomfortable with, but now you're saying that we're going to use tools that we've never even heard of. Like, what is neural frames? I've never, And then, am I ever going to use this again? Or what am I learning from it? But I think, when I asked my team after, like, what did you learn? And they're like, oh, we learned to be way more specific with our prompts. We learned how to actually get the AI to produce what it is that we were wanting the output to look like.
Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah. That's a good point. And it is the biggest driver of any sort of AI generated solution, whether you're creating something with tools or whether you're deploying AI agents or whether you're using ChatGPT or Copilot for internal reasons, like prompt engineering and how to talk to AI is in itself kind of an art and science. And so exercising that muscle is going to definitely open up people's mindset of like, okay, maybe I need to be thinking differently about how I interact with AI. Because I think our natural origin of how we look at AI and it kind of spawned from how we look at Google, right? So a lot of people start with, I'm just going to put in like a Google search, what I would ask Google to do, because I'm used to I'm going to ask you a question and then you give me 4 or 5 answers and I'm just going to have to fight through and figure out and compile what I believe the answer should be. And I think people are, so wired, that's muscle memory of just doing that. And they don't realize like, no, you need to put in like way more, a series of prompts and really push the AI. And then over time, maybe even save those prompts as system prompts that you can continue to reuse and build on this kind of like relationship that you have with the AI. And I think, and this exercise that you guys did with the video definitely exercised that to the extreme, because when you're doing a creative, when you know what you want at the end of the day, the outcome that you want, right? This video with a certain theme, and then you started seeing it build it, then you go, yes, that's what I want. Let's do more of that. Let's do more of that. And then you start to think about AI as less of a search oriented kind of experience, or even just like a chat experience, more as a coworker, right? Like you have a design team of videographers and animators and all this in another room. You're just kind of hitting them up on Slack saying, yo, do this now. But it's at a high iteration, high speed. And that's what I think is like the culture lag that we are currently in, which is like people just have to learn that. And once they learn that and they get to being better prompt engineers and think of it more as a coworker, it just unlocks so many cool things.
It's less daunting and it's more specificity, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't really, you might have a vision of what you want the outcome to be, but the problem that most of them get to, and maybe again, it's the creative side of it, is that they just go, well, I don't want to spend the time just refining. It's like, it doesn't usually take that much. Like if you know what you're trying to accomplish and you have a clear vision of that, you're probably already 80% of the way there. And the other 20% is either coming from adjusting prompting, maybe revising what you really think your outcome to be. Maybe it's you get an outcome and then you feed that to another prompt to go deeper, right? It doesn't have to be a one size fits all.
Or sometimes if you want to get meta, which is what we, I always recommend if somebody's new to AI, is you can actually ask AI to help you build out your prompt. That's the irony, is like it's like, hey, I'm trying to build a better prompt to do this. Yeah. Tell me how I should break it down to you so that you understand what I'm saying. It's almost like it's like going to therapy, right? Like
tell me how to communicate with you.
It's like marriage. It's like marriage therapy. Turning to your wife.
Help me help you.
Exactly. Like you have to ask the therapist, like, how can I communicate to my wife so she understands? And then vice versa, obviously. So it's like speaking a different language, but that's what's exciting about it. So what do you guys, now that you are famous and I'm sure that you won.
What are you on to next? You know what I mean?
What's your next? Like, what's the next thing? When's the next video going to drop? When you go on tour? Like, what's?
So no videos. We're hoping to win this competition because that would be very cool. Like the broader consolidation competition.
Oh, okay.
But we did try to translate the learnings from doing the video into our day jobs, and so we started doing quick experiments, I guess, on what is it at month end that we spend time doing that's manual. It is a lot more frustrating than putting together a video. And I think part of the frustration stems from the fact that we use so many different tools. So I hear you love Salesforce, for example.
I love Salesforce.
So like taking, taking Salesforce data.
Please tell me that you guys use Salesforce. Please tell me.
Some of our businesses use Salesforce.
Yes.
And
those are the best ones, I bet.
Month end, right? We want some insights from what's in Salesforce, and we want to translate it into commission data and revenue data. And right now, all of that, exactly. And so all we have right now is Copilot to help, and Copilot and Salesforce don't talk. And there's, and then there's just, it feels very disparate. And so we know what we want. It's just, we can't get the right AI tools in place to then do the output. So we're a lot more efficient than we were even 3 months ago but we use it we use it only in small pieces and not the end to end.
Yeah, but you're also learning where like the magic ends, right? Because like that's the other thing is you can give something to like you can give a document to Copilot or GPT or anything, and it can do so many cool things right out of the box. You're like, wow, how do I unchain this? And then the minute you want to unchain it, it's like they're in two different zip codes, right?
Exactly.
They're like, well, this isn't going to work.
This is not going to work.
That's the reality between a consumer-based kind of product, which these are really, and then versus like an enterprise where you actually now, okay, I got to deal with disparate systems. I got to deal with different business processes, different dynamics, and it's not as easy to communicate that, because the integration component and all that becomes like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Right at the end of the day, is if I have to do all this, if I have to increase my manual labor on one side of the table, just at collecting and curating in order to get the output, versus just do it the way I used to do it, you start to kind of and so there's not a clear path to automation and autonomy. That can be very frustrating, right?
Yeah. Especially because we can see it. Like my team has mapped out a process, they can see it. And so it's not, they know exactly what it should look like. It's just, we don't have the tools yet to get there.
I mean, one of the things that people quickly realize about AI, and this is where you have to think of it from I get probably from a completely different architecture, right? And you have to kind of escape from the classic point of view ChatGPT or Copilot experience, because in the chat experience, it's primarily driven by an LLM and it's language based. So when you kind of advance into the financial modeling or finances, when you're dealing with structured data and quantitative data, it doesn't meld well, right? And so what ends up happening is you're either requiring the AI to escape the LLM and start generating code to process some of that documentation so that it can understand it and read it, or you have to kind of find another way to kind of integrate that same kind of language-based user experience that you get with ChatGPT and basically, model it against your ecosystem. So that kind of like step up is kind of where, the enterprise level type AI has higher level of requirements and just a completely different architecture. And there's great things that you can do with like the ChatGPT experience. You can upload files as Lee mentioned and stuff like that, but it is somewhat limited in the sense of like the integration and kind of the taking a file or multiple files, making sense of them, crunching it through. And that's where you really have to build out your own model. So a lot of the challenges there is that's where most people expertise starts to wean. And then it's really kind of, okay, well, how do I train this AI to understand my schema and my databases and my data sources? And how do I allow it to then accumulate that and then present it in a way that I can then interface with it and ask questions and then generate new documents? That piece, that middle layer is like what these other products miss,
And then in my space, you multiply that problem by 24 separate businesses. But then the insights, my CEO wants is at that consolidated 24 businesses, who are common customers and what do they use? And so I have very little way of doing that right now. And it is just simpler to do it manually because I know how to do it and it's repetitive and I know what systems to go to get the information.
What has to happen is you have to, what AI loves, if you're going to, what we've realized when we're building out agentic solutions is that all these disparate systems where we have our data live are a mess and they're not AI ready. And so what we typically do is we, in that middle layer that I described is you have to create this kind of common data source, data place, like call it a data lake or something like that, where all of this information is pushed into for business intelligence. And then you're having your AI and your agentic network workforce communicate to that common interface. And so you find commonality, obviously, in standards and finances. They're all, we all use the same, GL accounts. And I mean, there is some level of coordination at the finance level for sure, because it has to all roll up, right? But getting it from Salesforce or getting from QuickBooks or getting from wherever, Great Plains, wherever it's coming from, getting that. So what we're basically describing is that massive heavy lifting, that Groan, a realization that in order for us to actually build out an AI that can actually do stuff at a high level, high efficacy, and actually help our people, and then allow them to actually come in and plug in and do some really creative, cool stuff, is we have to take that big step in consolidating and having all this data published into one singular data source that becomes your business intelligence, your one source that the AI talks to. And it's like, and once you have that though, and that becomes kind of your standard business process, where any new company that you might acquire, any new entity that comes in, you just pipeline right into that database, right? And that's that is like the heavy lifting that's required. We call it training, but that's the heavy lifting that's an integration. That's like the big. That's why most people don't start building AIs, because they get to that wall and they go, "Oh wow, this is actually a pretty sizable project that we're not capable of doing alone. We don't really know what we need to build." But if we could build this centralized data lake where the AIs can talk to it, then we could unlock and unleash a lot of automation. But that hill you have to climb before you get the pay dirt can be quite daunting.
And my concern with my team right now, there's like that curve, that's the adoption curve, right? And so they finished this music video. It was really fun, really easy. They did a couple small experiments. It worked. So they were like on a high. Yeah. And once they tried to do some of the bigger stuff, they're in this, like, what's it called? Like the valley of despair on the adoption curve. Yeah. So I'm a little worried that we're going to be stuck there too long before we can get back out.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's like you have this vision in your head of like, because ChatGPT is so easy that, just give it to everybody and they'll figure it out. And then we'll be AI tomorrow and everything will be glory. And we'll be in utopia and nobody will have to work again. But the reality is most companies are just not prepared to take that, to leap that chasm, because they don't have their, forgive the pun, books in order, right? So they don't have like,
oh, good one, Rich.
Like that one? I was reaching. And this is not just in finance. This is in support and sales. So like even support 100%. Use cases that we deal with. They have like, okay, where's your documentation? Oh, well, I think there's a couple PDFs over here, and there's an old legacy support system we used to use from some of their software over here. Now we're adopting this new one over here called Zendesk, but it's not, it doesn't have everything. And actually for this product, all of it's in Jimmy's head, like we have to extract it from his brain because he's the only one who knows it. And so like same problem, like, and that first step is consolidating all that data, creating your AI model first, and then you unlock the rest. So I think it's frustration, but the reality is that they shouldn't be frustrated. It's just like, that's the reality of AI. There's a reason why, if you just look at OpenAI, which is what powers ChatGPT, they spent years just basically curating the entirety of the internet to create this initial model. And so it took millions, if not billions of dollars to do that, and time, and a lot of energy and a lot of compute. And nobody can escape that reality of AI. You have to do that with your own data too. You don't get away just because you have ChatGPT. That's just foundational data, but if you really want to like have it honed in on your data, you still have to go through that heavy lifting stage.
Yeah. There is a little bit of misconception, I think, that, just AI will fix it. And the concept of garbage in, garbage out still exists, right?
Yes,
even with AI, and that's
it's math.
That's the reality. I think some of my stakeholders aren't really grasping.
So it's, if all of our systems started as a cute Frenchie, then we would have an amazing video in a few weeks. But the reality is, I think most of our systems look nothing like that, right?
Nothing like that.
So that's the reality of the hole we buried ourselves into. But I think there's definitely a lot of energy and a lot of development that's happening. I think tools and platforms are coming out that are pushing and helping companies, handle that big heavy lift that they don't necessarily aren't prepared for. It is a new science. It is something that most people, even IT people or developers, are not necessarily too familiar with, because just because I'm a developer building applications doesn't mean I understand data science and understand aggregating and centralizing and building out business intelligence warehouses. And also, just because I'm a business user and a stakeholder doesn't escape the fact that I'm still probably mostly responsible for identifying use cases and training the AI.
Yeah,
because it's not
there's
really
going to be a lot you don't know.
Yeah, and so even though your responsibility is like, you still have to raise your hand and say like, hey, I think this, if we could figure this out, we could, put an ROI model and we could accelerate month-end closings by this, or we can reduce the mistakes that we make, human mistakes or that by this, and you start putting that and you start adding that up, then it does warrant the energy of like, okay, maybe we need to get all this data into one centralized place.
Yeah. So Rich, would you say it's safe to say, if you don't know, now you know? That's a Biggie Smalls lyric. I knew you knew. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. Biggie.
I won't use the rest of the line, but yes.
Yeah. It's in the music video.
Yeah.
That line.
It is.
But not the full line.
That's my favorite part.
No.
It's my favorite part of the music video.
Yeah, that would be the one thing that might keep you from winning the whole thing, but no. Yeah. Well, Shika, this has been great, and I appreciate you coming on here because of course, when we have guests, sometimes it's very industry specific. A lot of times they come in like talking about what they're doing in their vertical. So the fact that we get to speak to you about AI usage around something that you guys would never have thought of doing, but what it's unlocked for the team was really special. So I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, thanks again for joining us on this episode. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay in touch. Also, check out our Substack for more content, which we linked to this episode to continue this discussion. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.